Okay folks, it's the next morning. I'm somewhat recovered, mostly recovered, and I came out and I started building in between the clouds and the sun. I guess you don't see the sun peeking through right there, but it's interesting. It'll start raining and I'll go running inside, pull all my tools in, and just as soon as I get them all in, the sun is out again. Who knows? Anyway, so I started piecing it together. I got the middle together now. Got some pieces up on the outside. Now you might be able to see the sun starting to hit it a little stronger. And then I started figuring out with these pieces, see if I can sort of show you now. Here's the idea. These pieces are supposed to line up against here and against the back. Not against this 2x4, but this is just to sort of demonstrate the depth of it. Well, it turned out that I cut them all 12 pieces at the same size, and somehow it seemed to be off by about maybe half the depth. Well, maybe the depth of this. So somehow my calculations when I did them were wrong. I should have taken off half of this from all 12 of them. So the ones in the back are going to be just a little bit bigger than the ones on the front. So I've now cut down all these little pieces and just show you a little. That's how thick the pieces were that I cut off. Not much. Anyway, so now I'm going to try and assemble the front and give you a few pictures as I go. So no sooner did I get started than I realized a bit of a problem. It's going to be really difficult to try and get up over the top of this without going with a ladder outside and everything else. Sorry, over the top here to get in behind to try and drill in so I can support these cross pieces. Well, what I decided to do is I'll put a couple of screws on one side as sticking out a little bit, and then another one counter on this side, so it forms sort of a clamp. Ultimately these will be screwed into the front piece, but that just sort of creates a clamp so it won't move around. And once I get the dirt in there, that'll pretty much hold it in there too. Okay folks, we're gaining on it. We managed to get the bottom cross pieces, the interior cross pieces in. Lots of screws on the front, trying to get it all together. Unfortunately, now that I've cut it short, turns out I needed to cut about half as much off, so I don't know how well you can see that. There's a gap there, so I gotta figure out what to do because these were supposed to be compartmentalized. I may actually be lining this whole thing with plastic after all of this. Tried to do it nice with cedar, but the one thing I can't quite tell is this cedar has apparently been dipped to prevent sap something I've forgotten. Anyway, it's something because the boards get discolored. They're supposed to be fence boards. The boards get discolored when the sap leaks out, and so they dip them in a chemical that's supposed to protect it from that. Unfortunately, I don't know if that chemical is food safe, and I'm going to want to grow vegetables in here, so I may end up just putting in plastic after all of this, but at least the majority of the structure will be built and it'll look like cedar from the outside. You know, you can kind of see. And then I've got this last piece on top. So I'm going to sort of put this in place and show you. This is including the book matching. So, and despite the distraction of all of the screws, it still looks kind of decent. So, it's a giant box made out of cedar, and it's going to be filled with dirt. So, we'll see. Okay, there it is, folks. The finished product, minus the dirt and the actual plants. Unless I decide to line it. That kind of gives you an idea. Each one of these, with the current design, I did some calculations and it basically worked out that I think each one of these little cavities works out to about 76% of a cubic foot, although the ones in the front are a little smaller than the ones in the back. So that kind of gives you an idea what that looks like. So, kind of the larger aerial view. I can't really see what I'm doing here, but that's kind of what it all looks like. And I guess we'll give you some updates once I start putting stuff in there, or if I put the plastic in. That's pretty much the whole project as far as the wood. Okay folks, I keep thinking I'm done. It's the next morning, right around 8 o'clock. And I was talking with the neighbors yesterday, and she had a really good suggestion for these gaps that I have, where I was concerned about the dirt making it, say, from this compartment to the neighboring compartment. Some of the gaps are more pronounced a little hard to show you actually. Wait a minute, let me try to do this. Maybe you can see more of a gap there, or even worse, a big gap there. But her suggestion was, why not just put in some duct tape? Well, I went and I looked for some duct tape at the 99-cent store, and they didn't have any. All they had was carpet tape, but they did have this, foil tape. This is aluminum foil in a tape form, and I'm figuring this is basically metal, so there's probably nothing that's going to leach into the soil. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is cut pieces to fit over these gaps. It's going to look a little funny, but ultimately it's all going to be buried with dirt, so that should help out with the whole problem of sort of isolating the compartments. Okay folks, I guess you could call this truly raised bed gardening. So I'm now standing on the top of my step stool just so I can actually get access. But there you go. This is kind of what it looks like with the tape in it. You can see bits of tape here and there. Not the neatest tape job in the world, but it's basically just so that it'll create some kind of blockage. So each one of these units is isolated from the other. Now I'm going to get some of my dirt I got sitting in various parts of the garden in old pots. Start filling up the bottom, and then I'll put the fresher stuff on top, and we'll go from there. Okay, this is a little scary. These things are just big enough for me to fit an entire 5-gallon bucket in. Well, okay, maybe not the entire thing. It'll fit side to side, but I mean that's quite a bit. And actually, it probably is close to 5 gallons if you consider that that's circular, but the actual the structure is square, so you can actually fit more dirt in here. And I'll do a calculation, I'll figure that out. But that's that, and I just wanted to show you that I've actually now filled about halfway. I'm going to take one of my plants over there, and I'm going to put it in here and let it continue to grow. That's my lima bean plant's going to go in there, and then once I get it in, I'll see how much else I can put around it. 1 down, 7 to go. And there's actually some new growth on there, so that's encouraging. Not new since I put it in, obviously, but new like in the last week or so. So we'll see how well it survives the transplant. Okay, so if nothing else, I've taken the 2 plants that were sitting on this end of the wall. They are now transplanted. They were my 2 probably most mature plants and everything. I can still got some room. I can probably plant some things around them. Complementary plants so that they'll help each other in the soil. I've still got 6 compartments to fill. That's pretty good. But if nothing else, I'm figuring I should at least transplant as much as this planter took up on the wall, so I can put all of those away, and then if I have to, maybe put a couple of flower boxes back. I'm not sure. At some point I'll probably build another big planter box like this and just have a gigantic garden, but that's 2 down, and I can fit some of the smaller seeds that are on the way in the mail, and we'll go from there. And to think I was concerned I wouldn't have enough dirt. I got 3 cubic feet in the car. I got the rest of that bag down there, and I've still got a 5-gallon bucket of older dirt. So basically I've put in my older soil in the bottom of all the remaining planters. You can see the 2 that I already planted there. And I'm going to fill in the top with the newer soil, so it'll be healthier, and I don't have to worry as much about, did I plant beans in here and now I want to put in a tomato, or did I plant a tomato in here and now I want to plant beans. I don't have to worry about those things as much. So I'm going to fill it in with the newer stuff now, and I'm still going to have soil left over. Wow. Okay folks, there it is, all filled up. I think I'll spend tonight, or part of tonight, coming up with a game plan on just where to plant all the seeds that I've got that I wanted to put in there. Somehow I have a feeling that all the seeds that I've got and the ones that I've got coming, I'm not going to have enough room to fit it all. I'm going to have to build another one next to it or on the far end. We'll see.